Hi, I'm Justin and welcome back to Just Shaves. For this video, I've got another side-by-side comparison that I've been really excited to do. I'm going to be comparing the Blackland Blackbird against the Aylsworth APEX with the plus plate. Real quick, I'll address the elephant in my bathroom. This is the bronze version, this is the stainless steel. Why am I using the bronze version? Well, really just because this is the heavier version of the Blackbird that I own. Stainless steel would have been a good comparison, but I thought this was close enough in weight that it can be a stand-in. So I'll be shaving with the bronze version, but I'll be speaking to the differences as if we're doing a stainless steel versus stainless steel comparison. With the Blackbird, the first version of this razor that I owned was actually the titanium. It's pretty well regarded as being one of the best razors out there. A number of people that have, collections of higher end razors listed the Blackbird titanium as one of their tops. So I kind of just felt compelled to try it. And once I did, it absolutely ended up living up to the hype for me. Within short notice, it was, the top razor that I turned to in my collection. And, the hobbyist in me was kind of curious how much of that was due to the actual design of the Blackbird and the head design and the geometry versus the lighter weight of titanium. So I always had it on my mind that I was going to try it in a heavier metal. And for one reason or another, I didn't really gravitate towards the stainless steel. But then when they released this bronze version as part of their workshop batch 1, I kind of just jumped on it, and I've been really excited to have it ever since. So I'll be using this as kind of in place of the stainless steel version of the Blackbird for today. Again, the comparison is going to be against the Aylsworth APEX for today. This particular razor, I feel like I was a little bit late getting onto the bandwagon with the Aylsworth razors. The first one that I ended up owning was the APEX, but in aluminum. I didn't even jump on this one brand new. It cost $70. I saw it listed for, a fraction of that price, that someone was just, was done with the razor and they wanted to pass it on to someone else. So I jumped on it at a lower price. And upon using it, I immediately realized they just got something right with this geometry, with how the head's designed, the rest of the razor. And I was immediately curious to try the rest of the APEX line. Like, I wanted to try it in a different metal to see what it would feel like. For this one, I have a couple of aluminum razors that I would currently rank ahead of this aluminum APEX, but this is still a top 5 aluminum razor in my eyes. And again, I was just immediately curious to try it out in one of the different options. So I ended up having the titanium version of this razor sitting in my cart for a good week or so before I came to my senses and ended up getting the stainless steel. At the end of the day, for me, I thought the stainless steel added the most variety to my shaving rotation. I don't know if the titanium would have been better, but at least for me, this one felt like a good fit at the time. So again, I'll be comparing this is with the plus plate. I'll highlight that as well. Real quickly, before I get into the specs, I'll pivot and talk about the different options these razors come in. Again, this is the Bronze Bird. This batch is already sold out, so they're not currently selling the Bronze Bird. A couple years ago, they sold it in brass as well. They're no longer selling that at the moment either. They do have it in stainless steel and titanium. Stainless steel comes in at 94 grams. They have 3 different finishes as well. So there's the machine finish, satin finish, and the polished finish. Let's see, machined and satin, I think, come in right at $200. If you opt for the polish, it takes it up to $260. And this handle is going to be the standard 85 millimeter handle. They offer a longer handle as well. I believe it comes in at 101 millimeters. So short handle works great for me, but there is a longer handle option if that's what you're interested in. And then they also offer 3 base plate options: a standard, open comb, and a light base plate. The standard and open comb are going to have the same specs. It's just going to be the difference in the guard, whether it's a solid bar or it's an open comb. And then the specs on the standard plate is going to be a blade gap of 0.58 millimeters, which is, I would consider that on the moderate end. It's not a very large blade gap. And then the blade exposure is going to be 0.101 millimeters. So I've used some razors that have higher blade exposures, but compared to the gap, it has significantly higher blade exposure relative to the blade gap. And the light plate option, I don't think they published the specs on it, but it's just gonna have a smaller gap, less blade exposure. And I actually do have the light plate on the titanium and have used it quite a few times. It shaves very similarly to the standard plate, however, with the smaller gap, smaller exposure. It's just a safer razor. Like, you can move a little bit quicker with it. However, that comes at the cost of not shaving quite as closely. But that is absolutely an option for people, especially if you wanted to consider having multiple options for different days, different amounts of growth that you have. So that's something to consider. Also, the people that don't like highly efficient razors might just want to opt for the light plate. It's absolutely still a fantastic razor at that point. That's the pricing and specs for the stainless steel. If you opt for the titanium, all of the same specs and measurements apply. However, the titanium comes with the satin finish, and that one costs $340. And if you opt for polish, it costs $440. So it's pretty pricey once you start looking into titanium. At least for me, it felt worth the money, but there's absolutely an argument at that price point. Especially considering your budget. Like, it's as high end as it gets for standard three-piece razors. I'll pause there. I'll point out the specs of the Apex as well now. With the Apex, this one also comes in a few different options. I highlighted the aluminum version. They do aluminum. This is the stainless steel, and they also do titanium. And then they have two different base plate options. The aluminum's only available in the standard plate, and the standard plate, I guess I can hold it up since I have it here. This one is going to have a 0.7 millimeter blade gap, and the blade exposure is going to be 0.05 millimeters. If you want the aluminum, it has to be with that standard plate. And then the stainless steel is the one where they give you an option between either the standard plate with that 0.7 millimeter gap and the 0.05 millimeter exposure, or you can opt for the plus plate. And the plus plate takes it up to 0.99 millimeter blade gap, and then the exposure is going to jump up to 0.125. So really significant jump once you start looking at this plus plate. The titanium version only comes with this plus plate. And then a couple comparisons just with the weight. This one comes in at 35 grams for the aluminum version. Stainless steel is going to come in at I think they listed at 106, and then the titanium version, they have it listed at 55 grams. So pretty significant difference, especially between the stainless steel and this aluminum version here. One thing I didn't see anyone else really highlight, and I didn't know this was going to be a thing until I got both these razors, but I'll pause right here and highlight something. When I was playing around with these two razors, as I'm doing off camera right now, so apologies, I realized all these pieces are pretty much interchangeable. So what I didn't really know that I had the option of doing is, if you love the aluminum and for one reason or another you just kind of wish it had a little bit more efficiency or a little bit more oomph to it, they don't sell it with the option for the plus plate. But you can squeeze the stainless steel plus plate in here. So whether you have the titanium or the stainless steel, you can go ahead and plug in the larger base plate option right into this. I did take a look at the weight on this, and it only takes it up to 49 grams. So kind of middle of the road, like heavier than just the standard aluminum version would be. But this I thought was a really awesome option. The other option was doing it in the reverse. And I haven't had a chance to actually try this out myself, but just playing around with it at home, I thought this was really interesting. So at this point, I could just plug in a smaller gap if I wanted to on the stainless steel as well. So this one, I think, just brought the weight down to like 96 grams. So still very heavy, in the ballpark for stainless steel. But if you like the stainless steel, but just wanted to cut it down or wanted to toggle back and forth, the plates are interchangeable. And especially with, the aluminum with this larger blade gap, I'm not going to say that this is going to be the same as the titanium version that they offer, but all of a sudden we have the exact same blade gap, blade exposure of the plus plate of the titanium. And this is within 5 grams of that. So this is 49 grams once you mix it up like this, and the titanium comes out to 55. So the feel in the hand is obviously going to be a little different. The balance is going to be a little different. But, if you were looking to see what that titanium one might feel like without actually ponying up the money for it, this might be a fun way to do that. So I haven't done this experiment yet, but I thought this was a pretty cool option that I realized. I'll pause real quick. And I'm back. Sorry for the interruption. Real quickly, I wanted to touch on the price point for the Apex and the stainless steel. They have 3 different finish options. They have machine, satin, and this electro polish finish. And it ranges between $140 to $160 depending on the finish you select. And if you were to compare that to the Blackbird in stainless steel, price point's going to range from $200 to $260 depending on the finish. So this one's going to be close to $100 cheaper. If you were to opt for the titanium version of the Apex, looking at $250 right there compared to $340 for the Blackbird. So again, roughly $100 difference between the two. With that, I kind of wanted to just start by holding up these razors and highlighting some of the differences. I have blades loaded in both of these right now. Starting with the similarities, both razors kind of have like a flat edge that helps guide the angle. And you can see it right here really clearly on the Blackbird and on the Apex as well. One of the ways they differ is I think the Apex with the top cap has, one of those elongated top caps that's really clamping the blade down towards the end. The Blackbird, on the other hand, doesn't clamp quite as far out, but instead really relies on bending the blade to get the rigidity. Between those two design types, there's not really a better or worse way. In fact, I think both work pretty darn well. The Apex also has the tabs completely covered. And with the Blackbird, it seems like they tried to make both crowds happy. Like there's a little bit sticking out, but not enough to really stick out and nick you. But if you're the type that, struggles pulling the pieces apart, there is just a little bit enough of the tab sticking out for you to clamp onto. Handle is also going to be a little bit shorter because this is the standard version. This is the 85 millimeter handle. They offer a longer one that goes down to 101 millimeters. And then the Apex is just going to come with this 89 millimeter handle. Real quick, going over the specs again, I think I read through them really quickly, but blade gap on the Blackbird, this is going to be 0.58 millimeters. And then the blade exposure is going to be 0.101 millimeters. And then for the plus plate of the Apex, we're looking at a 0.99 millimeter blade gap, significantly larger than the Blackbird's. Blade exposure, 0.125, also larger than the Blackbird. So on paper, this is going to be the more efficient razor. But from my experience, I feel like the efficiency was really close with these two. And if anything, I left feeling safer using the Blackbird just with how large the gap and how large the exposure is. I've used this one time and I was having a really excellent shave, and then all of a sudden I just got a fat weeper on the back of my head. And I couldn't help but think of John from Stubble Meets Steel review of the Aylsworth Copper Count, where he was saying it was smooth until it wasn't. And that was kind of the experience I had here. So I'm just going to be extra mindful going through with this razor again today. And I think that's enough to just kind of jump right into it. So I've rambled on a little bit about the specs and the differences. Now I'm just going to pause, get lathered up, and I'm going to do a true side-by-side. I have Astra Superior Platinum blades loaded in both these, so both on the slightly milder side. And I'm gonna use the Blackbird on the left side of my head, Aylsworth on the right side of my head, and we'll just jump right into it. All right, I'm back and all lathered up, going with the Aylsworth Apex on the right side of my head today. And so far this is very smooth. Like the angle's also very easy to find with the kind of predefined angle that it has. Quite a bit of blade field though. Which, given the blade gap, blade exposure, shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And again, I'm using that. There's my first weeper. Smooth until it's not. Jeez. Wow. And myself personally, I rotate through so many different razors. Again, with this just being a hobby of mine, I rotate through different razors almost every other shave. Most of the time I leave without weepers. So this razor, the 2 times I've used it, and this one like immediately just got a weeper. If it can bite me, it can bite anyone. Not that I don't make mistakes, but again, I've been doing this for a while, and I use a lot of razors, and most of them don't leave me with weepers right out the gate. So I was gonna have a deep sigh of disappointment there. And with the aluminum version, like I don't have the same issue at all. Like it feels very similar, just again with the geometry being the same, but with the smaller gap, smaller exposure, the aluminum version just isn't bitey at all. And perhaps this razor with the standard plate wouldn't have been either, but definitely between the additional gap, exposure, and weight all at the same time, like it made it into a whole different razor. I don't know. And this is a very well regarded razor also, and perhaps if you have a dense beard and you're not shaving your head, this might be ideal for you, but it is very efficient, however, so there's that. Oh man, I'm just gonna retouch my lather for the Blackbird side. With both of these razors, and if you watch my videos, you've seen me complain about this before, but this is another razor with how the top cap is designed. It's kind of flat and guides you in that angle. With that, it creates some friction and drag. And this is the one razor that I experienced that with, but I don't really complain about just because of how well it still shaves at the end of the day. But with that in mind, I do like to make sure I do have a slicker lather, and I at no point have a really dry lather. So on to the Blackbird side now. Very efficient, and it's smooth because of how well it's just moving through all the hairs I have in front of me. A little bit of friction, but nothing to complain about, especially with the added attention I paid to my lather just before starting. And this razor with the standard plate, like I would consider it very efficient, but it isn't like bitey where it surprises you. Like this is a very predictable razor. You know exactly where the blade is at all times. And I'm getting a close shave, but it's also pretty comfortable for me. Yeah. The Aylsworth, on the other hand, this is probably my second biggest weeper of the year, and the previous, like the first place weeper was also the last time I used the Apex. And the times before this, like I can't remember the last time I got a weeper this big. Like the Vector with the Pro Super didn't even get me that badly. And conversely, this Blackbird, while it's efficient, I can trust it. And a part of that might just come down to experience and familiarity. Like I've been using the Blackbird for more shaves, and I've been using that plus plate on the Apex. So, you know, I'm not sure if I'm gonna give up on it, but I'm kind of leaning towards it, to be honest. That said, having this along with the aluminum one, for the reason I pointed out with the plates being interchangeable, you know, there might be some upside there. I haven't done those comparisons or tested out those different configurations yet, but I do like that that's an option they have here. All right, so going back to the Apex on the back right side of my head. I'm just gonna be extra mindful because this is where I got the last weeper with this razor. This might be the part of the video where I do my least talking, is when the Apex is touching my skin, apparently. Okay, so. I think we're good on that side. Going back to the Blackbird on the back left. And I just love this razor. Like, the angle's really easy to find. And they got something just right with the geometry. Well, I'll pause after this next little bit here. And given the efficiency, I like moving a little bit slower with the Blackbird, but it's a very predictable razor. So they got something absolutely just right with this head design where, sorry, I need to rinse that out better, but it gives you the angle that's optimal for this particular razor. This one works in my opinion, works better with a more shallow angle. And then with the blade gap being smaller, yet having that extra exposure, it gives you the efficiency without making it really unpredictable, if that helps. You can absolutely still bite and nick yourself with this if you're not careful, but it's few and far between for me, to be honest. Like, you know, as long as my lather's good and I'm going carefully and slowly, I get a fantastic shave with the Blackbird each and every time. But with this, I'll pause, I'll get relathered up, and I think I'm just gonna try to skip over that spot on my second pass, but I'll be right back. All right, back for my second pass now. I have my spot that I know to avoid with the Apex side, but I'm gonna start with the Blackbird, really just to switch up the order and give this a fresh lather to work with. And between these two, this is far and away my favorite. Like, I think the Apex was probably on par with smoothness, but then I can't really trust it because it just nicked me on a very routine part of my shave. And also, for whatever reason, the lather channels on the Blackbird seem to work really well, even compared to the Apex. And the Apex, doesn't necessarily struggle in that regard, but just now I had an easier time with the Blackbird. Is that another nick? And if this is a nick, this particular one was my fault because I knew there was a bump right there that I was trying to avoid. And yeah. almost tried not to put lather over there to make sure I didn't accidentally hit that. So I mentioned the titanium version of this was my favorite razor. This bronze one's not far behind. This is well ahead of most of the other razors in my collection. Between the two, I end up getting very close to the same shave results. However, with the titanium one, I get zero irritation post-shave. This one I sometimes have a little bit, but I can get pretty close to the same results, and this one also just looks awesome and feels great in my hand. So I think I'll actually just retouch my lather on the Apex side real quick. Skip over this bloodbath on the top of my head. I'm shaking my head so much because I had a feeling I was gonna bite myself with this razor again on camera. And despite paying attention, despite making sure I had a good lather, it happened anyways, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. But overall, the shaving community really loves this razor as well. It's just, I'm starting to think it's not for me and my head shaves, but it's okay anyways. Yeah, and I'm using a mild blade. Like this is an Astra Superior Platinum, which is one of the more mild blades that I have. And still got that weeper, but it is what it is. So gonna retouch the lather. And I think we're gonna be calling this good pretty soon. I should really just get the top part of my head again. Yeah. Okay. Put back some of the lather I just scraped off. And left side for the Blackbird. And finding the angle on the Blackbird is very Henson-like, where you just put the top cap down and it kind of finds it for you and sets you in the right angle. A little bit of drag, a little bit of friction, but again, really slick lather can combat that. And then also with the results I get, this is a razor I can turn a blind eye to that for. So done with the Blackbird side. Go over to the final part of the shave with the Apex now. I'm just now remembering one of the online reviews I read about this. I forgot who was the one who said this, but they compared this razor to a lightsaber. Like they pretty much said, you know, whether it's hair or skin that's in front of it, like everything's getting mowed down. That's, you know, kind of what happened here today. Very efficient. I do get a close shave, but for whatever reason, it likes grabbing some of my skin sometimes too. So it's what it is. I'm gonna rinse off and I'll be right back with my final thoughts. All right, I'm back with my final thoughts. I went through with an alum stick just to test for post-shave irritation. And to my surprise, like aside from the big weeper I had on the Apex side, I really didn't have much sting from either razor. And then also on the shave closeness was about the same. So ending shave results aside from the weeper on the Apex side was about a draw between the Blackbird and the Apex. However, if I had to pick one, I'm going 100% with the Blackbird, really just for the trust factor while I'm using it. It doesn't feel like an unpredictable razor that could just kind of up and bite me at any point. Whereas the Apex, and for good reason, I was kind of on pins and needles the whole time I was using it. Surprisingly, the blade feel felt about the same. However, you know, the Apex at the end of the day, just a little bit more bitey. And I think it's due to the larger blade gap and not so much to the exposure. I think just with the blade gap, it's able to accidentally clip some of your skin more likely than the smaller gap on the Blackbird. So from that regard, I think the Blackbird, they absolutely got that design down pack. And that's part of the reason why it's, you know, a staple in the wet shaving community and has been since its inception. So I know there's a price point difference between the Blackbird and the Apex, but I'd 100% recommend the Blackbird for anyone who has the means to acquire one. And if you're not able to afford the titanium one, I think the stainless steel is still a terrific option. So I was just using the bronze one, and at the end of the day, I think I enjoyed the shave with that one nearly as close as I did the titanium. So I would pick the titanium over the bronze one, but understanding that there's a price point difference, you can get very close to the same results with the stainless steel version as well. So with that, I'll call this job well done, minus the weeper that seems to have closed up. But with that, thank you guys, and until next time.